Welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about Ecos the First Continent, about the strategies involved in this game. Now, it's true that you don't have to go with the preset cards. And if you're playing with experienced players where everyone has played this game several times, including yourself, then I would definitely recommend going with one of the other options rather than the footprint options. But if you haven't played it that much, or it always seems to be that you're playing with somebody who just isn't as experienced of a player, or just hasn't played this game at all, then I would definitely recommend playing with the preset cards. Now there are 6 preset cards, 6 different footprints, to form 6 different preset cards, and each player would randomly get one of the footprints. And so we're going to be talking about each of the footprints and showing you the different strategies involved with each of the footprints. Now, it's true that this game there's a lot that happens in this game, a lot of things other players might do, or just the way the landscape is set out, etc., etc. And so even though I recommend playing these particular cards that I'll be talking about here shortly, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll win every single time, or for that matter, it'll work every single time, because a lot goes on in this game, and a lot of things that other players will do will affect how you will end up playing your cards. But let's just go ahead and show you what I have found with each of the footprints in Ecos the First Continent with the preset cards that seem to work best in a particular order. So the first footprint we're going to go over is the lion footprint. Now, if you're playing with the preset cards, you always start with these 3 cards. And because things can change, we're not going to go too much into how many victory points you could receive. We're just going to go with at least a particular amount of victory points. Not necessarily the most, because you could get a whole lot more if the situation or the elements were exact. You could get a whole lot more. So let's just kind of go over them. Now, this one here will give you a tree, and then it will give you 3 victory points if this tree is not in the largest tree habitat, including ties. Now, I'm not really going to go into the victory points and how much you could possibly get with this card, because this part of the card really doesn't matter too much. Yes, it gives you victory points, for sure, but what I'm more interested in is these 2 symbols here. So the wave symbol is pretty common, and then these 2 are about in the middle. But the antelope symbol is a really hard one to get. There's only 2 of those in the bag, and there's also only 2 wild symbols in the bag. So the chances of you getting these symbols, the antelope symbol, is slim to none. So completing cards that have a lot of those symbols may take some time. But if you are able to activate, or should I say eco, this card a bunch of times, that will make it a lot easier to get that symbol there. And it will work well with this symbol over here, which already has a vine on it, and 2 antelope symbols as well. So it'll help you complete this card a whole lot faster if you try to eco this card before ecoing this card. It'll help get that one ecoed faster. This one is also pretty useful too. It's a one-time use, but it'll help get some more grasslands out there, so that way you have places to put your antelopes. Because after all, in this game, you aren't allowed to usually put an animal on a tile that already has an animal on it. And so, playing this card and getting it taken care of before ecoing this card is still usually in your best interest, because it gives you a grassland, and then it also replaces another water, if you want to, another water tile, with a grassland tile. So that's pretty cool. And then you get to gain a card and play it, which, you know, if you're gaining a bunch of cards from a huge pile of cards, you just don't know what you're going to get. So you get the choice of 2 cards you get to look at, but in the end, you still don't know what you're going to get with that. But that doesn't really matter, because what we're focusing on is building up a particular strategy. And this strategy, it focuses mostly on grasslands and antelope. And your antelope need a lot of grasslands because they can only go in a grassland. So you're going to need a lot of grasslands. So you definitely want to make sure you get some of this, at least this one, this ecoed before this one. So, and of course this one will help you big time in completing this one. Now this one, you get to move up to 3 antelope 1 space. So this is the first time you ecoed this card. That won't really matter. But it will matter once you have other antelope. Plus, if you can move antelope to the same space, all the more better for you, for sure. So, you get 2 victory points per antelope in this community, or you play a card and place a wild symbol on it. I recommend holding off on the victory points. Save it for the next time you play this, because you're allowed to play this card 2 times because it has 2 leaves on it. This one has 1, and this one has 4. So, I would recommend the first time you play a card from your hand, and then you get to put a wild symbol on it as well. And so the one I would actually recommend is this one here. Now, if you've already played this one and ecoed it, there's already some extra grassland, and who knows, if other players are playing the game and they put some more grassland, this could get you particularly a lot of points. Because you get to place another grassland, you automatically get 6 victory points, and then you get at least 1 more for every grassland in this habitat. So potentially, you get 7 points every time you play this, and if there's more than that, especially if you had done this twice, put 2 grasslands out and you put them all next to each other with the other grassland that was already there, and then you did this one, there's 4 new grasslands, there could be potentially 4 grasslands altogether. And so potentially, you could potentially get 10 points, at the least, if that was the case. As long as somebody else didn't mess up that strategy of their desire of building the continent, I would recommend that you would do that one next. Then, the next card I would definitely recommend you getting out, for sure, is this one here. Now, the reason why this one is the case is because it gives you a wild symbol, a cube, or you can gain a card. The gaining card doesn't really matter, but you could use some more, you might end up needing more cubes, so that's a good choice. And then if you've got a card like this one over here that has the antelope symbols on it or something like that, that could potentially help you out complete this one faster. So this one is a good choice for the next card you get out, because it'll help you get some of your harder cards played, possibly, because you only need a sun and a rock symbol or element to get the wild element or symbol. So that's pretty cool. Another good one I like to get, if you can get it as fast as possible, is this one here. It only needs a sun element to complete it, but you always get a grass element, which if you've played Ecos, you know you get a ton of the suns all the time. And this one here, which you got earlier, has a ton of grasses on it. So, either this one or this one, after you get this one, would be recommended, because there's 4 grasses on this one. The least you could do is equal this 4 times and fill up all 4 of those with grasslands, at least 1 time. So it's very useful, for sure. But these cards are all really good here. Now, there's another card you'll definitely want to get to help out with the antelope strategy. And this is another really good one to get too, because it gives you more antelope. And if you want, you could potentially, if that was your strategy, you could potentially get this one before you get the other 3 over here, and get this one out and get it started, so you have 2 cards for the antelope strategy. The more antelope, the better, because this one is, you get 2 victory points for every antelope that moved. So you potentially already put out 2 antelope with this one. The third time, if you play this if you equal this the first time, and this one's already got 2 out because of that, then you could get 2, 4, 6 points. The next time it could be 8 points. The next time it could be 10 points. So 6 and then 8 and then 10. You do the math. That's a lot of points. So these 2 cards are powerful cards, and they will work very well together. But because they have the antelope symbol and the rock symbol on them, and the grass symbol, it might be prudent to get one of these 3 at least as well for that strategy. Now, there are other cards in the footprints as well, and there's one that just gives you a wild symbol for a sun and a wave symbol, or a water symbol, to indicate water. So you could get those out as well. Now, this one could give you victory points, but in my eyes, it's not that useful. Same thing with this one, and this one. They're all part of the first footprint, but they're not the best to pick first. They would be my last resort, depending, of course, how the game looks. If there's a lot of land masses, and the smallest landmass is pretty big, this could be very handy. Maybe, maybe not. It all just depends on how the game's been played, and what footprints are being played with, and what players are doing with their footprints in the game. So that is kind of like a wonky card. And these are mostly wonky, or they work well if you have a bunch of particular symbols for other cards you might have gained from this pile here that has no footprint on it. But anyways, I hope you liked the strategy for the lion. This is the lion footprint strategy. So, and to make it easier, obviously you would always start with the ones that are darker if you're doing the footprint strategy. But number 87 is a good choice to get out first. So is number 66. That's also a good choice. And then there's a few others here that are really good. Number 40 is a good choice. Number 48 and number 49. All right, we'll be back in the next video with the next footprint.